We are live. Welcome again, everybody, to the Saturday service Tulsa Centers for Spiritual Living. For those that don't know me, my name is Brad, and I'm a volunteer here. And quick funny story, we talk about demonstration and manifesting. It was 3 years ago. It was at 4 a.m. on this day 3 years ago that I randomly woke up, never having heard of Tulsa CSL. I randomly opened the Facebook app on my phone, and the very first meme, I kid you not, was Tulsa CSL.
All right.
And the rest, as they say, is history. So welcome, everyone. I've been here for the past 3 years and have been studying and learning, enjoying, and having opportunities to speak like this. So this is my first time in 6 months, so we'll see if I'm a little bit rusty. For those who don't know me and have not heard me speak before, I usually like to start out with a little bit of an icebreaker. I think you were just saying that you wanted one, right, Gail? I think if I heard you correctly. Yeah. So before we get started, we'll just dive right in here. So here we go. Knock, knock. Who's there? Butter. Butter, get your umbrella. It's raining. There we go. So, all right. If I make a few of you laugh, it was worth it. So I'm going to read some of my notes real quick just because I want to stay with the theme for this month a little bit. So the theme for this month has been living everyday wonder home. In other words, we've been talking about this idea of the hero's journey and finding your way back home. And of course, I'm not speaking of the physical home with a roof and foundation or anything like that, but of course, the spiritual home, our true nature. And so the notes that Reverend Jeff sent me, I want to read these too, just as a reminder. The keys to the home of your dream are in your heart and mind. Find out how to unlock the possibility and joy of being at home wherever you go. And so today we're going to meet a young woman who has gone through this very journey, and we're going to learn what she has experienced and how she has experienced this. So the title for my talk today is, what do you do when you don't know what to do? A hero's journey back home. What do you do in life when you don't know what to do? So I'll start out with a quote from Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes says, and again, I got this from the weekly notes that Reverend Jeff sent me, and this will be key as we listen to the journey of the young woman we're about to meet and how this plays out in her life. So Ernest Holmes says, always the spirit corresponds to our belief in and receptivity to it. Hence, there is a power within to which each may come, a presence which is light, a spirit which is guidance. This is fundamental to understanding the science of mind. There is a spirit which knows, and this spirit is God. The spirit which knows us. It corresponds, it responds, and it flows through us. So how does this work in everyday life in the real world? I thought it would be fun to go on a little adventure and meet a young woman who has demonstrated this principle in her everyday life. So I'm going to tell you a story. Once upon a time, in a city not so far away, we'll call it Tulsaville, lived a happily married woman with two twin boys. Her name was Ahmale, which meant in her native language, beautiful one. Her native language being Zulu, of which her great-grandfather once served as chief of the great Zulu nation, which we all know now as modern-day Zimbabwe. Now, by all accounts, Ahmale appeared quite happy and content. She was young, fit, healthy, strong, active, 35 years old, very active in her local Tulsaville Centers for Spiritual Living community. She had been studying for years, almost 10 years at this point, and she had grew to have a deep understanding of the principles and philosophy of science of mind. As well, she had become very in tune with her own inner intuition, that inner voice that we talk about. And she was extremely excited about where divinity was guiding her, about that nudge that she was receiving to open her own cookie bakery. You see, she had always dreamed of being a business entrepreneur, a small business entrepreneur, and opening her own bakery cookie shop. And soon she felt that her dreams would be coming true. Now, one of the principles that she liked from the science of mind philosophy was that our beliefs set our limits. The higher and greater our belief, the more that we call into our life, the more that we demonstrate. On page 35 of the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes writes that as much good as any individual is able to incorporate into his or her life, I corrected that for modern day grammar, he or she is able to use. Now he continues to follow up on the following pages, 37 and 38. He writes, our beliefs sets the limits of our demonstration. And as much as we believe, so it shall be done unto us. As much as we believe, it shall be done unto us. And so Ahmale believed that there were no limits. She had the energy, the excitement, the passion to shoot for the stars and even further. She was going to aim higher than the furthest star. And she well understood this principle that all she had to do was believe, trust her guidance, trust that inner voice, and that it was not a matter of time. It was just a matter of when. It was inevitable that her dream of owning a cookie bakery would soon come true. She was excited. She was happy. She was passionate. She was, as they say, high on life. Now, before I go any further, I should explain one thing about Ahmale. Ahmale is just like you and me. She has her ups and her downs. She has her good days and her bad days. And she too has struggled with bouts of depression in the past. And soon, as she will learn, she is about to meet a new foe in her life, a new enemy in the form of anxiety. So life seemed just perfect for Ahmale, just smitten on cloud nine, as they would say. Until one day, she came home after having dropped her boys off at soccer practice, only to discover a Dear John letter from her husband. It seems her husband was having an affair, and now he wanted to leave her, and that he could no longer stay in this marriage. Ahmale was crushed, devastated, and couldn't comprehend what was happening. How on earth did I manifest this? She thought to herself. She immediately went to a science of mind principle that she knew well, the law of cause and effect, that states that our thoughts create our reality. Ernest Holmes writes about this. Our mentalities are but the spirit working through us, the spirit of intelligence, which is God. In order to do something for us, it must do that thing through us. Well, how could this be? She wondered. In the following months, she did her best to stay strong, trying as best as she could to maintain her trust in God, to follow that divine inner voice, that intuition, to maintain a positive mental equivalent and what we call a consciousness of abundance. But her old nemesis, depression, began to creep back in. Not much, just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little dash here, a little dash there. And now, for the first time in her life, she began to experience anxiety. And in fact, she suffered not one, but two major anxiety attacks. What will the future hold? She wondered. God, she asked, can I still trust you? Can I still trust you? In the midst of her ongoing drama with her now ex-husband, co-parenting her two twin boys, she had somehow managed to still open her cookie store. A dream come true, or so she thought. God, you guided me to this. Thank you. Thank you for guiding me to this, to being a small business owner, entrepreneur. And now she eagerly awaited for the customers to come through the door. But they never came. What should I do, God? She asked. She did what she has always done. She quieted her mind and she turned inward. Again, to tap into that inner voice, that intuition. That's the only thing that she knew what to do and how she would find answers. She would continue to allow her intuition to guide her, to which she felt a strong nudge urging her to market and advertise. Oh, of course, she thought. How can somebody find me if they don't know about me, if they haven't heard about me? So she immediately began a marketing and advertising campaign blitz. She still had a good stash of money left over from the small business loan that she was able to manifest. And she felt that this is where God was leading her, what the next step was on her journey as far as her small business was concerned. So she did just that. She hired a marketing advertising team. She built a marketing campaign. And from that, she built and blitzed the media, social and newspapers, radios, all of this. But still, no customers came. She grew confused. God, you guided me to this campaign, but still no customers. Why? What's going on? I thought I could trust you. Her trust began to fade. She began to question and doubt not only what she was doing, but who she was. She couldn't understand what was going on. She was led to believe, she was taught, she was led to think that if you trust that inner voice, that if you listen to that intuition inside that is guiding you to do X, Y, or Z, that all would be well. And if not, then something better would happen, right? After all, we are taught if I wish to manifest this in my life, I wish for this or something better. She was consciously using the law to manifest what she felt in her heart. And God had even guided her to opening the cookie store. And up to this point had brought her all the resources she needed, including the small business loan, a graphic design artist who was working for free, a very affordable rent on a building that she found, and free internet. But no customers. No customers. So with regards to intuition, Ernest Holmes teaches us that intuition is spirit knowing itself. He writes that intuition is God in man. That intuition guides man if he or she will allow it to guide him or her. Again, Ahmale thought that all she had to do was trust her inner voice, her intuition, which she knew she had done up to this point in her life. And if she did that, then all would be well, right? Now she was no longer sure. Her doubt began to take over. What do you do when you don't know what to do? What do you do when you are no longer sure? When you are no longer certain, when you can't understand where God is guiding you, what God is doing, or why this is happening. She started to think that listening to her inner guidance, that inner voice, that inner intuition would not get her anywhere. She didn't know what to do next. Why, God? Why did you have me open this cookie store? Why did you lead me down this path? I followed you and I trusted you, and now I have nothing. My marriage is gone. My business is failing. I have no customers. Why did you guide me to create and build this business if there was not going to be any customers? She put her head down and she sobbed. She angrily looked up to God. She angrily turned inward. And she said, if you want me to continue down this path, especially with keeping my cookie business open, I demand that you send me a very clear sign right here, right now. But the sign she was looking for never came. And to this day, still hasn't come. At least not one that she was aware of or that truly captured her attention. Ahmale was growing more demoralized by the day. I listened, I trusted, I followed, and nothing. On top of that, later that day, when Ahmale received her mail, her snail mail, she noticed a letter from the IRS. She opened it. She was being audited. She owed $125,000. Her husband, as it turns out, had filed falsified tax returns for the past 10 years. She had no idea about this. And now the IRS had caught up with them, and she was on the hook. God, what are you doing? Why is this happening? I did what I was told. I listened, I followed, I trusted, I believed. I did everything to have a conscience of abundance, a mental equivalent that all was well, that everything was working out for the best and highest good of all. This is what I learned. This is what I was taught in Science of Mind. I listened and believed with all my heart. I don't understand. What is going on here? I thought I was doing everything right. Can I still trust you? Is it not the hero's journey to believe in my dreams? The next morning, Ahmale was walking out in her backyard, playing fetch with her dog. She could feel herself starting to sink once again into that deep, dark depression. And the anxiety was beginning to take over her everyday reality yet again. But suddenly, she stopped. She paused and she told herself, no, not today. Not again. I cannot and will not let myself go back down that dark hole of depression and anxiety. I refuse to allow that to be my reality ever again. She literally, in the blink of an eye, snapped herself out of it. Later that morning, she wrote 3 words on a piece of paper. I am love. The next day, she wrote, I am abundance. She continued writing, I am strength. I am enough. I am worthy. I am deserving. But God, what about my dream that you planted that seed within me to have this cookie business? Still no customers. She was on the brink of shutting her doors. Why? What is going on here? Should I continue with this business? If so, show me a sign. But still, a sign never came. Not one, again, that she was aware of. A few days later, she felt a nudge to journal. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, she said to herself. Why should I listen at this point? But she begrudgingly did listen. She sat down, and on that piece of paper, she wrote this question. Who am I? And this time, she began to answer fervently. Much more energy, much more passion, much more enthusiasm than ever before. I am love. I am strength. I am abundance. I am a leader. I am a woman of strength, faith, and courage. And for the first time in more than a year, she finally started to feel alive again. Everything was still the same. She still owed the IRS all that back tax money. Her business was still failing miserably, and her husband had long ago left her. Later that day, while driving her car, listening to a random talk on YouTube, she heard something that she had long ago forgotten. 4 words that nearly caused her to stop dead in her tracks. Choose faith over fear. Choose certainty over doubt. Suddenly, she felt a surge within she had never felt before. My God, she thought to herself, I have been choosing fear and doubt this entire time. She had long forgotten about these 2 spiritual principles. In your life and in your circumstances, what are you choosing? Are you at home choosing fear or faith? Are you choosing doubt or certainty? Then it began to make sense. She started to understand. God wasn't leading her astray. God was leading her to where she had wanted to go all along. God was leading her back home to her true self, the real hero's journey. She vowed then and there, that very moment in the car driving, to always choose faith above all else, to always choose certainty above all else. And she came full circle when she realized that the destination was not a successful cookie business or any dream or any goal for that matter. But the real destination was, as we sing at the beginning of every Tulsa CSL service, the real destination was to remember who you are. A few days later, she heard another spiritual principle, one that she actually had not heard before. Always focus on the best possible outcome. She thought, what is the best possible outcome of being audited by the IRS? What is the best possible outcome of being divorced? What is the best possible outcome of my business failing? She didn't know and didn't have any answers, but her insides began to fill with hope, excitement, and trust. As she thought about all the things that she could do with her 2 boys once all these messy items were over. She thought about the mother that she truly could be, and even the wife that she could be next time. And she felt deep in her heart that yes, there would be a next time. So the moral of the story is this. As you go forth in this world, whatever you have going on, a relationship issue, a work issue, a health or a financial issue, a home repair issue, whatever it may be, that event is happening not to you, that event is happening for you. That is the hero's journey. It's not about a goal or a dream, but the hero's journey is about shaping and sculpting you into that person that you already are, so that you remember who you already are. Life is not about what you do, but who you are being. Remember, we are spiritual beings having a human existence. There is no circumstance too big for God to handle, and God is handling all of your circumstances, every one of them. So as you move forward to deal with whatever circumstances you have going on in your life, remember to always follow these basic principles. Choose faith over fear. Choose certainty over doubt. Choose and commit to always live in a high energy state, not a low energy state, such as depression, anxiety, jealous, or frustration. Refuse to allow yourself to go there. As Ernest Holmes states again, drop all negative thoughts from the mind. Focus on the things you are doing as being already done, perfect, whole, and complete. In other words, focus on the best possible outcome. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? You do what you have always done, just as Ernest Holmes said in the beginning. And what Ahmale continued to do, even when she doubted and lost her faith. There is a spirit which knows, which is God. You are that spirit. You are that hero, and you all are already home. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Brad. Well done.
Yeah.
Another point, because I wasn't sure about time with this, just make one more point real quick. And in this story, which this is a true story, by the way. We are, it is easy to apply these principles. For example, choose faith over fear, choose certainty over doubt, choose to focus on the best possible outcome. It is easy to apply these principles when, how do I say this? Life is all in all not too bad. And by that, I mean, we have a full stomach, we have electricity, we have running water. We know our next month's mortgage is met. But the true test for us comes, can we apply these principles when our bank account is zero, when our electricity has been shut off, when we don't know where our next meal is coming from? And so I know her. That's how I know the story. And she actually helped me get my Zulu name. Some of you might know my Zulu name is Kagiso, which means peace. So if you see on my social networks, but so she and I have talked a lot about this, and how do you apply these principles when your back is really up against the wall, so to speak? It's easy to choose faith over fear when you can go home and go to sleep in a nice warm bed. You can wake up the next day, have a nice hot shower. But what happens when all those things are gone? Can you still choose faith over fear? So, yes.
One of my spiritual teachers, Sister Ellie, constantly